Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite game with Limp, and we're going to jump right back into Fighters of the Pacific. We're going to pick up where we left off with the start of this first round here. We've already pretty well got going with our little recon attack segment here launched from the Japanese. Now, for the first turn, we got to go back and forth on who's got the initiative, because that's how it works in this game. And it's going to work a little bit different based on who has what in the air. So it talks about it right here on the sequence of play. And so you get 1 point if you've got an aircraft group at high altitude, 2 if you got a group at low, and then a point for each damaged aircraft. So they have one group at low altitude. That's 2 points. Mine doesn't have anything up in the air yet. There's some on the deck, but I'm not counting these yet, not until they're actually up in the air. So they've got 2 points, I've got 0 points. That means they have initiative. When it comes to the solitaire mode of the game, initiative is one side goes and then the other side goes. So the player with initiative activates all of his planes after his opponent has played all of his planes. So when we're looking at our little sequence of play here, you see where it says the player with the least handicap. So it's the lowest number. They have 2, I have 0. That means I have the initiative, which means they move all their stuff first. That's how the solo is supposed to work versus the regular game. In the regular game, when you're playing heads up with someone, you're going to go back and forth activating groups. So they would activate a group, then you would activate a group, and this just determines who activates a group first. Since their recommendation is to do it that way for solitaire mode, we're going to go their way where it's one side does everything, then the other side does all their stuff. Personally, I kind of would like, I think, the back and forth as far as the groups activating, but at least this way it does make it easier to keep track of when you're playing in solitaire. So we'll go with that for ease of play, and we'll just see how it works. So that means I'm going to move all my stuff last. They have to go first. They have 3 vowels, right? Their speed is 2. They are flammable, agile, dive bombers, and level bombers. So they can do the level bombing thing, they can do the dive bombing thing, they can do a little bit of everything. And you can see where they can shoot. That's their fields of fire. For them, they're just gonna move. We're gonna pop them up to altitude. Definitely no need to keep them at a low altitude. And since they only have a movement factor of 2, moving them up in altitude will take all of their movement points. They are not that fast, unfortunately. We'll put our little bombs back on them. So you can see with our speed there, they got 2 propellers. Cost 2 points to go from low altitude to high altitude. So now they're actually entering a cloud bank. Just as an FYI, if you are ever in the clouds, you can't shoot into or out of clouds. Basically, you're invulnerable when you're in clouds, but you're gonna have to keep moving. Oh, and keep in mind, it did state in the rulebook, no partial movement points. So whatever movement points your plane has, you gotta spend them. Now, for our scenario though, we do have to kind of move aircraft around. This happens in the 3rd phase. I'm gonna go ahead and do it while I'm over here so I don't have to pan the camera back and forth as we're doing this. They are going to be bringing one up. They have one on the flight deck already. Let's give them another fighter. For now, they're not launching anything. Launching will take place in the 3rd phase, and that will definitely do then. But I think we're going to wait until they get a 3rd aircraft and then launch them all together. All right, so technically we are in the 3rd phase, the end of turn phase, the reinforcement phase. And I say that because that's when the aircraft are going to launch. That's when the ships are going to move. We'll pan back over to see our Japanese ships move. But I wanted to come over here for my aircraft to launch. They are definitely going to be doing that now. I can only launch 2 off in a U.S. aircraft carrier. The Japanese can do 3. I have 1 that's already on the flight deck, but, well, 1 other fighter besides these guys. These 2 are going to go ahead and launch. So we're going to move them out This is going to signify the fact that they are launching. As such, I'm going to have to move my aircraft carrier. This one's on the flight deck, and we're moving one other up, and that's going to be an SBD. All right, so a bomber. Or do I want a torpedo? No, I think we got to go dive bomber. Dive bombers are good. The SBDs are good. The torpedoes are great because I can launch that ahead and have it go streaming, but I don't know. All right, so I could launch those guys on the next round, but now I'm only being able to bring up one per turn. That's the one that I brought up, so I'm going to have to wait to get more. I want to get some more SBDs up on the flight deck before I start launching them because I want to keep them together as a group. This one is a fighter. He's going to get launched on the next one so he can catch up with these guys and I can keep them together as a group. All right, as far as carriers and destroyers go with movement, they basically get one hex of movement and then they can pivot. If a carrier is pivoting, turning in essence, it doesn't really get to go forward. Destroyer does, and I want to kind of swing this destroyer down towards them, have it be a target, something to kind of take some of the bombs for the carrier so the carrier will survive a little longer. So if I understand it correctly, as far as ship movement goes, he's going to go up like this and then pivot. And that's going to be his move. So when we get a little bit more going on, right, as far as aircraft, there's more aircraft groups and ships and stuff, I'll be throwing down tokens to help remind me of which ones I've already activated. But when there's only one, I'm not that wholly worried about it. Okay. And aircraft, I think I'm going to move the aircraft carrier. I could leave it sitting there to kind of keep it at a distance, but there's cloud cover down this way, down to the south. Maybe I can tuck that aircraft carrier in amongst some of that. And I know I'm going to do that as far as the Japanese carrier. I'm going to keep it constantly moving. Sure. Let me figure out how am I going to do this. Well, those two haven't launched. These aircraft have to stay there. All right, so now you guys can kind of see what I was talking about with the first little bit. You want to take and kind of adjust your aircraft so you know which ones are where. Remember, those blue ones are actually flying. They're at low altitude right now. The ones with the white underneath, they're actually on the flight deck, right? So they haven't even launched yet. It's just those two fighters. The aircraft carrier is just moving south. So as it's moving south, it's staying underneath the fighters. It just launched in essence. And those other two will launch on the next round. All right, so remember, we already launched these aircraft. They're good. They're at high altitude. These are going to move forward. We'll just move our destroyer forward by one. And yeah, I need to move that. Put the destroyer underneath it. Signify that. And we're just going to move that aircraft carrier forward one. As it goes forward, I'm going to try to pivot it around to turn it, but these things don't turn too quickly. And I've already made the judgment call. If I goof and accidentally sail it off the board, I'm not going to call that a win for me. That'd be too cheaty. So I'll just take and spin the aircraft carrier around, have it pointed back the other direction. The Japanese are not going to launch yet. Again, I'm going to wait until the next turn and then launch a fighter group together so they can have 3 aircraft. I think the Japanese are probably going to carry this because that ability to launch 3, they can only bring 1 up from the fighter deck or from the hangar, same as the American one, but they can launch their groups together instead of doing like what I'm doing is launching 2 and then launching another one next turn, trying to get them bunched up. Okay, here we go. We're going to kick right back off into the next turn. We're going to go back into initiative. Now initiative is a little bit different. And I think I'm going to have the initiative because they have one at high altitude. So they've got one group at high altitude. These guys haven't launched yet. So that's just 1 point. And I have one group at low altitude. So now I have 2, which means I think I have to go first. Yeah, so I've actually got my little maneuver template or maneuver part of the rulebook set off to the side. I'm looking at it as I'm doing these aircraft. All right, so yeah, I got to go first. I got to move all mine, but I've only got 1, so it's not that big of a deal. These 2 are going to be coming off, and I'm probably going to go ahead and handle the launch for those because we're already here and I won't have to move the map around or move the camera around because we're not close enough to be affecting each other yet. I want to get them up to high altitude. So if I climb and then maybe turn, I want to get them away from the aircraft carrier to make it a little bit easier. All right, so what if we did this? We'll slide over one, right? And now we'll go forward one and come up. So there we go. We got our fighters at high altitude, okay? But unfortunately, that is all of my movement points because these fighters have 3. The slide was 1 and the climb was 2. And yeah, just to save me a little time, technically I'm supposed to do this later. As far as the ship movement and the launch, I'm supposed to do it after I move their aircraft, but we're going to do it all in one bunch since it's not going to matter right now. So we're going to move my destroyer forward by 1. And I know I'm coming forward with the carrier again, which means these guys are launching. So I basically flipped them over. So they've launched right there. There we go. And I'm bumping my camera. Apologies. But yeah, that means they've launched. And now I can bring up one more. I'm going to bring up an SBD again because I want to get at least 2 or 3 SBDs. I want to have probably 3 groups or 3 fighter groups rather. So I've got 3 fighters here. I got to get him up to high altitude and he can join up with them. So that's why I'm kind of keeping these guys adjacent to the carrier so they can pick up that fighter. This one is coming there. I want to put him on the front to kind of get him as far, well, going that way. We'll put him under there and launch him. I guess I could put him on the front to get him a little bit of extra distance. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to cheat it a little bit. It's not really cheating. I got 3 hexes to choose from, but we'll put him there instead. All right, so that's the one that I brought up. Those 2 are in the air now, and these 2 are here. Technically, that's two groups of aircraft because these guys are at the same altitude and same direction. I looked. I couldn't find anything that says they have to be the same type of aircraft, although I am going to try to keep them as the same type of aircraft just for ease. So this fighter is going to be linking up with them and then bring up another SBD on the next one, and then we'll bring up some torpedo bombers. So 3 fighters, 3 SBDs, and 3 torpedo bombers should be enough to go after their carrier. All right, so let's do everything for our Japanese aircraft. We know exactly where these bombers are going, straight towards my stuff. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. So that fighter, or bomber group rather, is heading that way. They can get points for destroying my destroyer. That's why I'm trying to basically stream the destroyer directly towards them. Have some AA fire, hopefully. Maybe pick off our bomber or 2, but we'll see. And all right, so that takes care of their official activation part. Now we're into the 3rd phase for them, the end of phase where they're doing the reinforcements, bringing up aircraft and launching. So we are going to bring up their last fighter that they're bringing up, and they are going to launch all of them. See, stream their destroyer forward. We'll pull their aircraft carrier forward, and we'll pretty much just flip all of these guys to signify the fact that they have launched. And next I'll probably do the same thing for them, or I might actually roll off. They've got 3 fighters. They only have a few fighters left. Besides that, they've got some of their torpedo bombers, and they still have some more dive bombers they could bring up as well. So what else do they want to bring up? Yeah, I might roll off, do like a D6 roll or something to kind of keep it random, see what the next type of aircraft they're going to bring up is. All right, so kicking on into the next round. Because of where the aircraft are, I officially have the same amount of points as them. I've got 1 aircraft group in the air at high and 1 aircraft group at low. They have the same thing. God, they are 2 aircraft above me. Actually, they're going to blow me out of the water. They're able to launch them so fast. But because of that, we have the same initiative. And since we have the same initiative, it's a draw, so it's not going to change. So yeah, the initiative isn't going to change. Our aircraft groups are the same. We got the draw. So it's going to stick with what it was previous turn, which means I'm going to be moving all my crap first. I think we'll do one more round where I get everything done for one side and then the other. And then it's actually probably going to start to matter. Okay, so where do I want to move? I want to get this fighter at the same altitude as these guys and heading in the same direction. And I think the only way I can do that, because they can't keep the same hex. If he slides, okay, they gotta burn. If he slides over one and climbs, he can get to there. If they slide and go forward two, that should be enough to get them together. Yeah, so let's see if I do that. 1, 2. Yeah, that would put him there, and that would put him there. Okay, perfect. Doing them that way, they're all connected, and I can keep them as a group. Perfect, that'll work. All right, now I got a plan. Let's see, this SBD bomber is gonna slide over 1 and move forward 1. And while he's doing that, I brought up another SBD. Carrier is going to move forward 1. Destroyer is going to move forward 1. As he's going off to play distracty games. This way I can turn this fighter group that direction to go after it. They're about mid-board right now. And they can go after the Japanese. And these guys can launch on the next round, join up with this SBD, and then I'll have 2 fighter groups or 2 groups up in the air. Okay, perfect. That will take care of our Americans. Let's pop over, let's take care of our Japanese. We'll probably finish off the video here because we will be getting into some combat probably on the next video. I thought they would get over closer, but didn't work that way because as you guys can see, I'm panning it out a little bit. This is where we're at. I got the destroyers steaming in. This fighter group's getting ready to peel over. These guys are heading in. I think I'm going to have them come through this cloud cover and then pivot right about here. And that means I have to make a choice to either continue on with the destroyer or turn it down. All right, moving their aircraft. They are going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. They're activated. These guys can go pretty fast. I'll probably keep them at low altitude and then raise them up on the next one. All right, let's turn to make this easier. Get them away from the carrier. That's 1. Come on, turn away. There we go. It's 1 for all of them, and they can even climb. All right, let's just move the destroyer so I don't have to do that later, and we'll just go ahead and climb. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That is 3 movement points. So 1 to turn and then 2 more to climb. And just to show you guys where I'm getting this, you see right there with the turn. So they're turning into the next hex and then they're climbing. They're all up. They're all connected. They're all heading towards the bad guys to make shooty. Destroyer's moved. Got to move our carrier. Move him up. And now let's roll and figure out what we're going to get on the board. And rolling for it. And we got ourselves a 3. 3 will be our torpedo bombers. Basically, I did 1, 2 fighters, 3, 4 torpedo bombers, 5, 6 would be dive bombers. So these are going to start to load up. As soon as I got a flight deck full of those, I have got to get a bomber over here and put her, doesn't matter what section I hit, I got to hit one of these sections to slow them down because the Japanese are just able to get their aircraft so quickly off the deck. I've only got 4 aircraft up in the air right now, and the Japanese have 6. Now, they did start with 3, so I guess it isn't all that big of a deal, but they're going to be able to keep that advantage throughout this game. All right, just to give us a quick bird's eye view of where we're finishing out, we have ourselves 3 Japanese dive bombers, the Vals coming in there, 3 of the Zeros coming in right there on their 6. And that kind of worries me now, because if I pivot in those Wildcats to come in here on them, I could, if I slow it down a little bit. Take my time, do a few turns maybe, bring that destroyer around because I want the extra firepower. It's not as much the valves. I'm not horribly worried about them, but they do have front and rear guns, so they can potentially put some hurt on those Wildcats. The Wildcats can take them down fairly quickly in the right types of attacks, but not if they've got Zeros coming right there on top of them. But if I can get that destroyer to put the cover on it, just to make it harder for them to maneuver around, I might be able to get the groups taken care of with these fighters and then spring through with my SBDs and go straight after that carrier. And I'm kind of gaming it against myself because I know I'm going to gun for the carrier. And as such, I'm keeping that destroyer right there with it. So it's not going to be an easy cakewalk just right there nailing the carrier. I'm going to have to get past this area of flak as on top of it. I like this. I'll tell you what, this is a fun little scenario to play out solitaire just to see how it works out. This would be a fun one to play once as one side and then reset it once you get done with it and play it again as the other side just to see how it plays out. All right, we'll go ahead and pause here. We'll pick up with the next round and we'll see who is going to come out on top. It still is anyone's game, but as soon as a ship goes, I think that's really going to be indicative. Whoever loses probably their first destroyer because it's destroyer here, destroyer there. Whoever gets the bombs on target first. All right, but you guys have any questions, feel free to put them down below. Y'all take care. I'll catch you in the next one.